The second biggest problem is cancels and fails. So I hear that cancels and fails are a problem, but they don't have time for same-day dentistry. Now, wait a minute. That doesn't fit, right? If you've got open time in your schedule because of cancels and fails, you do have time for same-day dentistry. It's just you don't have the mindset and you don't have the process.
This is Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast where we ask the question, what does growth in dentistry look like to you? I'm Katie Polson, a dental hygienist and your host. Welcome! It's another great day in the dental world. Before we get started, I wanted to invite you to join our Facebook Dental Intelligence community. Come join like-minded data nerds and learn from each other. Also, if you have a question for our CEO, Weston Lunsford, go to our podcast page at dentalintel.com and record one. We will answer those questions in a coming Q&A, which is very exciting.
Right, Katie?
He will.
We
won't. I won't. He's gonna
Our
answer them.
CEO will record or answer those questions for you.
Yep, I'll put him in the hot seat. With that being said, we are talking about filling chairs today, specifically filling chairs with same-day dentistry. And today, that cute little voice you hear is my friend, Curtis Marshall, VP of Enterprise Relationships. He's here with me today, and he's going to introduce our great duo, two guests.
These two really helped me get into dentistry, FYI.
Oh, really?
Yep. Used to work in a dental practice, and I got to meet both of them way back then, and they helped me from the love of dentistry, and they do that with many different offices and doctors. It's Wendy Briggs and Dr. John Meis. Both of them are amazing people. They work with the Team Training Institute as their company, and also Hygiene Diamonds. You're going to get to, there's going to be some really great things we're going to talk about here. Diamonds,
yep,
that's right.
What's going to happen.
So to Wendy and John, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for inviting us. It's always great to be with Curtis and great to meet you, Katie.
Yeah, so exciting for me. So we're going to start off with, top performing practices complete, but that we've seen in our data, 50% of same-day dentistry that they present to their patients. But as we talked about kind of in the pre-show today, it's hard to know what same-day dentistry is for a lot of people. They get hung up maybe on the definition of it. So could you guys explain what it is to you and why it matters to filling chairs?
Going right at it.
Sure. Yeah. I'll describe it for the restorative side of the practice or the doctor side, and Wendy can do for the hygiene side. So we define same-day dentistry as any dentistry done during the day that's not on the schedule at the beginning of the day. This does not have anything to do with specific technologies, not with CEREC or CAD/CAM technology. It has nothing to do with that. It's just fitting things in during the day that weren't on the schedule to begin with.
Yeah.
Wendy, about the same for hygiene?
Yeah, it is about the same for hygiene. I think sometimes hygiene is often overlooked when we discuss same-day dentistry, right? There's an assumption that it's only on the restorative side, or there's only opportunities for same day on the restorative side. And we have found that that's not true at all. Many practices have tremendous opportunities to perform same day in hygiene. It's just the preventive procedures that are same day, things like sealants and fluoride varnish, and maybe additional diagnostic tools can be utilized, like oral cancer screenings and things like that. So there's a whole wide list of menus of services that can be provided on the hygiene side same day. And many practices may have those items on their menu, but without a clearly defined strategy, they're not maximizing that opportunity to do it today. Too often we see them reschedule those sealants to come back on another day, rather than figuring out how to do it today while the patient's here and they're ready to go.
That directly leads into what my next question was, which was getting cases scheduled on the same day. I know, because I've been a hygienist for 16 years, takes a dedicated system. So what pearls of wisdom can you give to a team that can't seem to get patients scheduled for treatment before they leave? It's a tricky task, and it's something that has to be top of mind all the time. Yeah. And you guys help people do this all the time.
Before they answer, this is something that I've seen Dr. John and Wendy go into dental offices and literally take a day of production and double it without increasing people,
That's incredible.
Employees. Well, they've mastered this. This is why we want them on today.
Teach us how to do this.
To talk about filling chairs with same-day dentistry. Go ahead, Dr. John.
Well, the typical thing that we learn in dental school, you have a patient, you do a treatment, then you schedule them back for the next one. That's just what we do. And so people don't necessarily get over that. So I was in a practice in your market. You guys are in the Salt Lake market, and I was in a practice there. And we were interested in acquiring the practice, and we were there with the bankers because the bankers were taking the practice back. Okay, so this dentist he had 2 patients the whole day. One of those patients needed a crown. So they were there to get their teeth cleaned. So the dentist cleaned the teeth. The practice was not able to support a hygienist. So the dentist cleaned the teeth. And you know what they did? He had 2 patients the whole day. He rescheduled the patient to come back for the crown they needed. I couldn't even believe it. You got all day.
Now why
don't you do it now?
Yeah, because typically we don't have, or we've been kind of thought that we don't have time today. So, hey, it's going to be easier for the patient and easier for me to reschedule. It's not.
Yeah, but it's not easier for the patient because now they got to rearrange their schedule. They got to miss work again. They got to get everything set up. So it's harder for the patient. And frankly, in that situation, it's not harder for the team. Now, that's an extreme example, of course. Most practices have a steady patient flow. They have what looks like a full schedule. But Wendy and I have spoken in front of large groups of people. And just recently, we spoke, there are probably 300 people in the room. All different ages, all different experiences, but in the room, there was probably, how many years of experience, 10,000 or something. And so we asked them, if you ever have had a day where the schedule ended the day the same as it was when the day began, and not a single hand went up. Nobody had ever had that happen in their entire career, right? So
if you're not in dentistry, you don't realize that.
No, but never.
It's not the same.
It's never.
You take a snapshot, you take a picture with your phone of the schedule in the morning and at night. If it's the same, and you can timestamp it and send it to Katie and I, I'll give you we'll give you a gift card. I will. I'll give you a gift card myself.
But with my type A personality, that was so hard for me.
One of our coaches uses the expression, the schedule is just a suggestion, because it's going to change. Yeah, it's absolutely going to change. And so
into a t-shirt.
Here's the conversation that Wendy and I have with practices frequently. Their biggest problem right now, the biggest problem right now is not enough team. The second biggest problem is cancels and fails. So I hear that cancels and fails are a problem, but they don't have time for same-day dentistry. Wait a minute. That doesn't fit, right? If you've got open time in your schedule because of cancels and fails, you do have time for same-day dentistry. It's just you don't have the mindset and you don't have the process.
Right. And I would second that, Dr. John. I think what most practices are often missing are the systems that support same day. So when we start talking about same day dentistry, we start to see the team become overwhelmed a little bit because they're like, we're already running around with our hair on fire. We don't have the time. But like Dr. John says, ultimately, when we really dig in, they do, because the first thing they're wanting to do when they have a cancellation or a failure is run to Starbucks. If we have systems in place and we have clearly defined, roles for everybody, what they need to do to convert that patient to same day. And it can be sometimes it's as simple as asking the patient, because we often find that we as the team make an assumption that patients won't want to stay and get it done today. They want to have time to sort out their finances. They want to have time to sort out their schedule. And in reality, when you ask the patient, if possible, would you like to get started today? Many times it's a yes, it's a resounding yes. So a lot of times what we find practices are missing are really the systematic processes. And once we simplify it, break it down, and let the team know who does what, and also reassure them that nobody has to do everything, but everybody should be doing something to drive us towards this goal, it usually causes the team to relax a little bit and recognize that it can be done. And then if we have the proper incentives in place, it becomes a real triumph for the team when they realize they're able to do things that they didn't even think were possible, right? So that's part of it, not just on the hygiene side, but on the restorative side as well. And Dr. John, you mentioned capacity blockages. That's a real struggle. And we do a full day training on this very topic. We do a full day training on same day dentistry and the systems required and how to overcome the capacity blockages. So even though we say, hey, yeah, do more same day dentistry, and our practices do a lot of same day dentistry, they do, but it's because they've worked on how to do it and how to do it right.
So that the patient have a full day training on just same day dentistry when some offices aren't even doing it. And then we're having issues with spilling your chairs and cancellations, Dr. John. That was really cool that you said that.
They can't cancel and fail if they're already there.
Yep. This
That's
is
going to
good
be
stuff.
the quote for the podcast. I
Quote for you today, right? A couple
yes,
t-shirt.
yes. We'll start making t-shirts. And the thing that really stuck out to me when you were talking, Wendy, was about incentivizing. And I really want to give actionable, because there's so many podcasts out there. There's so much information for these dental professionals. This is 20 minutes. Incentivizing your staff is huge, because we work under the assumption that if they're there and they work for us, they're going to give us 100%. But they don't. And everybody needs incentive to be incentivized to be able to really give what they can. So talk to me a little about incentivizing people to look for opportunities for same-day dentistry. What does that look like for the people that you help?
So we believe in a win-win-win philosophy.
Yeah.
That if we do the right thing for the patient at the right time, every time, the practice is going to grow. So the patient wins, the practice wins. We want to win for the team. And that's why we believe incentives. We don't think that incentives will encourage the wrong person to do the right thing. And it won't encourage the right person to do the wrong thing, but it will encourage the right people to do the right thing. And so if we just focus on what the right thing is for the patient and we do it every time, that's where we get the wins. So how we incentivize teams is, first of all, that we have a team bonus structure so that the practice does better, the employees get to share in that improved performance. The other thing that we have is what we call an activity bonus. And an activity bonus is where we have specific bonuses for activities. One of those activities is same-day dentistry. So Wendy, do you want to walk through how that works?
You bet. Yeah. You know, if we were talking about all the bonuses that we help practices do, that would take us another full day, right? But the same
Right.
day, this activity bonus, the beauty of it is its simplicity. So this is something that can be really, really easy. It's a small dollar amount. And I'll say, you know, we work with practices all across the country. And certainly practices in New York City have different compensation challenges than practices in Kansas, for example. But this one, a relatively small dollar amount is effective, $5 to $10 maybe, depending on where you're located in the country. And what we do is we offer an incentive for the team member who closes it. So the team member who asks the patient and gains acceptance from the patient, hey, if possible, would you like this done today? That team member would get the incentive. And then the assistant, typically, who raises their hand and says, I'll assist the doctor with that procedure, they also receive a small incentive. So there's 2 people who win, right? Because you know how it is, Katie.
Oh,
you know,
my gosh. I can hear it in my head of well, that's great, but I don't want to stay for until 5:05 to do this. My dad was a dentist, and he loved a root canal, core, and crown. And he would never, ever start. Why would we do the pulp if we can do the root canal, core, and crown? Let's just get this done. But the assistants were like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So,
John's smiling. Do you know how many doctors and assistants he's talked to about that?
yeah. So I love that idea of incentivizing the staff.
and sometimes too, Katie, let's be honest too, Dr. John, and I'm sure you'll have some comments to add, but sometimes the people that stand in the way are the doctors.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
the doctors have
Sometimes.
been out of mental energy, and the doctor's the one going, I don't think that's possible. We can't do it. But the team members know, yeah, we can do it. And so when you incentivize the team members, they begin to be the drivers, not the doctor. And sometimes they have to get the doctor on board. And most doctors really are on board, but there's occasionally times when that happens, right, Dr. John?
And doctors sometimes unknowingly will send a message to their team that they're not interested in doing it. So if the doctor's out of mental energy and they come and they got a same day procedure, even though the doctor wants to do it, just the slightest or roll of the eyes or already, or, just little comments like that really are telling the team that you don't want it. So you're sending mixed signals. You want to be more productive, but you're sending them a message that you don't want to do that. So frankly, Wendy and I have found that it's as often the doctor that's the blockage as it is team members.
Yeah. I feel that. I mean, I had an assistant and I felt like there were some days where I needed them to push me up. I needed them to
Right.
everybody needs the
Yep.
support. It's human nature.
Well, Dr. John, you're third or fourth generation? dentist?
Fourth.
Fourth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fourth
Awesome.
generation. Fourth.
That's awesome.
Okay. You probably have family stories on top of this that relate right around here. You
Sure.
yourself even have probably rolled your eyes in the past.
Yeah. No.
But you've worked with thousands of dentists. What is it for helping these doctors and so the team members as a bonus, but helping the doctors then to get on board with same-day dentistry, because same-day dentistry is going to increase chair time,
Yep.
right? So what would you say there you got such great background there.
The ideal for a dentist is to have a patient in the chair being productive and just moving along very, very steady, right? That's the ideal. But the reality is it's this. At the same time, the reality of the dentist's energy is also doing this, right? So sometimes they get crosswise. And for dentists to really buy into this, they have to understand they have to understand how profitable that next procedure is. So let's take a schedule,
Yeah.
right?
Keep going.
And let's say that we're going to do what is one of the most common same-day procedures there is. A simple restorative procedure. Let's say it's a composite restoration. And let's say that the fee for that is $200.
So look, you're saying same-day dentistry, a lower amount, one surface filling at $200. The patient's already there. Same-day dentistry, only 200. We're not even talking crown. We're not talking about crown buildup. We're not
Simple
talking about
stuff.
simple. Okay.
So what's the extra cost of doing that extra procedure?
Katie.
I don't know.
Supplies,
Oh, yes.
Supplies. So
Oh,
the
yeah.
filling, the
Yes.
resin itself,
Yes.
which is what?
6%, we could say.
Yeah.
Supply costs in most office run 6-7%. So 6%, so that's $12 of cost. We've got the 10.
Utilities, the lights.
They're
the
already
chair
on.
Time.
No,
That's
that's
true, they're
not.
already on.
They're already
You
on.
don't have
So-
correct.
True. Okay.
So you have the same day bonus for 2 team members. Let's say that's $5. So that's an additional $10. So the cost of that extra procedure is only $22,
Hmm.
right? The rest is profit.
Yeah.
So when doctors understand that, all of a sudden the lights go on that, wow, that makes a huge difference in our profitability. And that's why, Curtis, you said the top offices, they're doing as much as 50% in same day procedures, because they understand that those same day procedures are so much more profitable. And that's how you get doctors to tie into why this is important. Now, so that's the why. The how is teamwork. And, Wendy was talking a little bit about that, how team members support each other. Maybe, Wendy, you can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Katie, you're exactly right. We've all had that time where you're like, hey, we're going to do these 8 sealants today. And the assistant's the one rolling their eyes going, oh, it can be a little bit difficult. And certainly I think hygienists, at least initially at first, and even some doctors, as we've mentioned, have a little bit of a struggle because we get almost emotionally connected to our schedule as it's written right now. And we have to overcome any changes. And sometimes I think we're very technical, literal people, and we want to look at our schedule. We've kind of got our day pre-planned in our head, and any change can be difficult unless we create a culture where, like, this is how we operate. And we sometimes have to remind everybody about the core values that we're trying to do. They need clarity on the vision and where we're trying to go. And in many practices, we talk of things like we want to achieve excellence, we want convenience, we want, great patient experience, but we don't really take time to define what that actually means on the ground, in the trenches, day in and day out. And for many practices, same-day dentistry really fits all of those things, right? It helps elevate patient experience. It helps us retain our patients. We've added level of convenience. We've added increased profitability to the practice by doing it today rather than having them come back another day. And if you think about it, it's a simple procedure. Let's say we schedule 4 sealants to come back, which is very, very common. Well, now we have chair time that's reserved on another day. We've got a team member that needs to confirm that appointment. They may or may not show up. We've had to reserve team members to see that patient when they come, where we could just bust it out and get it done and preserve those valuable assets and resources for someone else that has a different need. So, I think once the team really understands the vision and where we're going and the why behind it, and they have some real support and help with the how, then magic happens. We do see practices. We have a couple really stellar practices that we work with right now. One I'm thinking of off the top of my head is in Louisiana, and they'll do about $10 million in production this year. And a good chunk of that is same day.
How many chairs? Do you remember how many chairs?
They have 50 treatment suites in their first location.
One location.
No, it's multiple locations, and they have 16, 12, 12, and 4, whatever that adds up to, something like that.
That's fantastic.
And I love how you.
And one of those is a brand new scratch start that did 100,000 their first month open.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, pretty good.
I love that you talked about the mental part of it, the getting over those mental barriers, because that's really what it is. You don't understand it unless you're in it, but dentistry, I feel, is 80% mental and 20% physical. It really does. And so once you get over those hurdles, like you said, magic can happen. I love it.
Or
Great
even
insight.
when you were in a practice, right?
Yeah.
Did you like it when your schedule changed?
No, I hate it.
No, that's one thing that Wendy's so good
Yeah.
at is she used to be a hygienist as well, or still is. I keep doing that.
He did that to me earlier. Don't take that title away from
sorry.
me.
Once a hygienist, always a hygienist.
Yes.
Yep. But Wendy's a hygienist, and she's learned, and she teaches hygienists that you want your schedule to change, because if it changes, that means that you can produce more. So
Yeah.
change is good. Where originally we're thinking,
Change is bad.
This is the schedule. Bah, 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 it's good. So if you want to come back in, you got to come back next week, because this is it. I've got my free time right there.
Yeah,
Yep.
I gotta check my Instagram in that little
Yep.
little
And
block.
and it's hygienists and doctors do the same thing. It is an interesting fact. Schedule watchers, right? That focus on their schedule and look at it every few minutes. They're less productive than the ones that don't look at it. Yeah,
I'm pointing to Katie here.
Mhm. They're less productive. Those that think of it as being fluid and just worry about the next thing they're going to do. They don't worry about what's happening this afternoon. They don't worry about what's happening. They're just focusing on the next thing for them. Those are the doctors that produce much more.
I love that thought. That's a great pearl. That's awesome. Or diamond. I guess.
One last thought, because you mentioned the mindset and the mental energy drain. One of the things that's very, very common, I'm sure you hear about this, we hear about this a lot on social media, is dentists think today, many dentists sadly think that dentistry is dying, that there's no opportunity to make money anymore because insurance companies are becoming more and more of a challenge. Like, we hear that a lot, right? There's even dentists that advise newbies, don't go to dental school. It's not the same as it was. And that part to us is really sad, because we know there's still tremendous potential in dentistry. And we know that same day dentistry is a way that you can still accept insurance and win, right? So it's not when we talk about the mental energy drains and the mental challenges, overcoming some of that, it extends far beyond this conversation today. Sadly, it's begun, and I've begun to see it influence the profession in a negative way. And what we want people to understand is there's still so much opportunity out there. There are dentists and practices and in metropolitan areas and rural areas that are doing amazing things for their patients. And we believe that dentistry is still an incredible profession, hygiene the same. And there's absolutely an opportunity for an abundant future for anyone practicing in dentistry, regardless of if you have a PPO practice or regardless of the market you're in. But again, sometimes to get there, you do have to think about things a little bit differently than the masses. The group think can take you backwards in some instances.
Yeah, that was really well.
That's interesting, because that's something we've been hearing a lot lately.
I everywhere. And I love the hope that you give, because honestly, if you spend 10 minutes on Dental Town, you'll find 15
2
people,
minutes.
15 people talking about how they are burnt out and they're just done.
And you really need to be careful about that kind of messaging. If people let that into their brain, that becomes part of their mindset. And now it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And there's a lot of great stuff on Dental Town, but there is that element that is a downer.
Yeah.
And
Whether it's Facebook or
you
whatever.
yeah,
whatever.
right. There's
Yeah, I mean,
Facebook
not
dental
I
groups
love
that are the
Dental
same
Town,
way.
but yeah.
And you really have to watch how much of that you let into your brain, because your brain might buy into it, and then your brain will make it happen. So
Yeah.
there's a tremendous amount of abundance in dentistry, and there will be forever, because people need dental care. And so if we just focus on doing the right thing for the patient at the right time, every time, including same day dentistry, we're going to be just fine.
Yeah. Well, that's great. This you guys have done. I've learned a lot. It's amazing how much you can learn in just
a couple minutes.
Short little minutes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we ask the same question to every guest of our podcast, and that is and it revolves around growth is personal to everyone, and it can mean so many different things to different people. So what does growth in dentistry look like to you, Wendy, and to you, Dr. John?
Well, I'll answer first from the hygiene perspective. So when we look at a practice, is hygiene growing? We look at a lot of different metrics, right? Obviously, that's speaking your language, because we want to know exactly what's happening. We don't want to be driving blind. But when we look at a practice and we want to see growth in that practice, we're looking at patient retention. That's critical. We should be providing a world-class patient experience. The patients return, so they refer. But we also look very specifically from growth from the provider standpoint. Are we really maximizing 3 roles of hygiene? We define those as preventive therapist, periodontal therapist, and the patient treatment advocate. Are we really taking the best possible care of our patients? And I can tell you that when we have hygienists that focus on that, not only why they do what they do, but they have clarity on the how, and they step up and they really become providers for their patients, we see tremendous growth. And that growth is represented in the production. We always say production's not the goal. It's the result that comes when we do the right thing. So for us to see growth in hygiene, it's an increased awareness of the role that hygienists of today can bring to their patients and their practice as a result. And we become fiercely committed to making sure the patients have the best possible care that we can provide, because patients deserve it.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
Preach.
I
I don't
would-
know if John can say much more.
So I would take that and remove the word hygienist and put doctor in there, because that was really good. Another way to look at growth is, are we getting closer and closer to our vision of what our practice should be? And many practices really don't have a very clear vision. When they don't have a clear vision, they don't have a good culture. When they don't have a good culture, their results aren't as good. So I think of growth as defining this is what we're going to be someday, and then getting closer to that. So that's increased quality of care, increased tool belts, increased proficiency at having a great patient experience. All those things I look at as growth. And if you do all those well, right, what happens, economically is very positive. And so just to reiterate what Wendy said, it's just doing the right thing for the patient. And if we focus on that and doing that very, very well, the economics in dentistry work out well.
So good. Well, you
Aren't
guys
these two
have been
amazing?
great. I know. Well, this has been Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast. Again, special thanks to our wonderful guests, Wendy Briggs and Dr. John Meis, the team Meis. I've said it 3 times before this.
You
I
did
know
good.
how to say
You did
it.
good. It's
I do adore you. I just can't say your name, apparently. Okay. Of the Team Training Institute and Hygiene Diamonds. And then, Wendy, go ahead and tell us where we can find you guys at, if somebody wants to reach out.
Thing, we have web chat on our website, so that's a quick and easy one, www.theteamtraininginstitute.com. And of course, we also have a book where we walk practices through 5 steps to double their practice productivity, double or triple. Actually, we've seen both happen. And they can request that by just going to wendysfreebook.com. Super quick and easy, wendysfreebook.com, and you can request the book there. And then, of course, it's also on the homepage of our website. So we'd love to send a copy of that book. We'll pay for the book. You just pay a couple bucks for shipping, and we'll take it from there.
That's awesome. You can
That's
also check out their podcast. It's great. I've listened to several episodes, Double Your Production Tomorrow podcast. You can also find these links and all other related links to this podcast on our webpage at dentalintel.com. Thank you to Curtis Marshall again for joining me today. And thank you to Tyler Johnson, sound engineer. I'm Katie Polson. Keep growing.